Hello, I'm Tom Meeks, and this is 3D Design for Fun and Life, featuring Moment of Inspiration, using the uniquely easy Noun and Verb method.
This session is Palette 3 Verbs, Tab 1, Construct, Row 3, Blend, Incited, Network, and the Curve Group. The purpose of this session is to give you a quick understanding of the very important Palette 3, Row 3 verb options in case your brain decides to take off in a fun, creative excursion. While we won't provide all the details about these verbs in this session, always remember that in the upper right corner of the screen, Moment of Inspiration will always guide you with step-by-step directions.
The blend verb. The blend verb may not be used as often as extrude or revolve, but it can come in handy when the need arises. The specialty of the blend verb is making bridging connections between two existing nouns. It does this by creating a new noun that bridges the gap between the original nouns. It works with either open 2D curves or by using the edges of 3D objects. Let's try blend with two open curved nouns. When we click on the Blend Verb button, the Blend dialog box pops up, and the prompt says, Select curves or edges to blend. Where we select along each curve is going to determine how blend works. In this case, we will select a point near the bottom of each of the two lines and click on Done. A new line is created between the bottom ends of the select curves. When the line appears, the prompt changes to Adjust Blend Parameters. Moving the bulge slider allows us to contour the line. Click on Done to complete the blend. Now we'll click near the top of each of the original lines and click on the Blend Verb button. We'll adjust our blend parameters to create a new line that will be part of a bicycle seat design. There are now 4 distinct open curves. Use the join verb to create a single closed curve. Blend also builds new bridging objects to connect two existing 3D objects using edges as guides. Click on Blend. Select the edges of the hex-shaped object and the edge at the end of the pipe. Adjust the blend by trying several options. Click on Done when finished. Now we'll connect the rectangular pipe fitting to the round pipe. Click on each segment of the edge of the rectangular extension. And then on the edge of the pipe. Then click on the Blend button and immediately make adjustments. Click on Done to finalize. Like the loft fur, when history is on, Blend updates if the objects used in creating it are moved or altered.
Here is a steering wheel that used Blend to form the spokes and connect the top and bottom sections of the wheel.
The Nsided verb. Sometimes we loft using a profile or profiles that are not limited to a single plane. When we do this, loft does not give use the cap ends option. And that can leave us with an object that cannot be 3D printed because it only consists of thin walls. To make it printable, we need to find a way to enclose both the top and the bottom. The bottom is flat, so planar easily closes the bottom. But the top isn't flat. Planar cannot be used to create the cap for the top. One solution is to add a point as the last profile in the loft order. We'll do that now and try loft again. Now, let's move the point to see the results. Notice that it eventually comes to a point, which may or may not be what you want. So, let me show you another solution that might provide a different outcome over the final shape. This is where the incited verb comes in handy. We'll start with a loft not having the point as the last target profile. Click on the incited verb button. The prompt says, select closed loop of edges to blend. We'll select all the top edges and click on Done. The new prompt says Nsided Options, and we are presented with a bulge slider. Sliding this control allows us to refine the final shape before clicking on Done to complete the process. Yep, it's true. The incited verb can be very handy.
The network verb. When you scour the Moment of Inspiration forums, you'll see highly advanced users creating beautiful organic shapes using the network verb. Network uses two distinctly different sets of lines to create complex 3D surfaces. The first set of lines in our example are red. The black curves are the second set of lines completing the network. There are 3 red lines and 5 black lines. Click on the Network button. It tells us to select the lines in the network. We do so in order. Click each line in succession for the red group, and then each line in succession for the black group. Then click on Done. As completed, it cannot immediately be 3D printed because Network builds thin walls. But these walls can become components in more complex designs of an object that can be 3D printed. Here is an example of our thin walls being used as components 3 times in the creation of a solid 3D object.
The curve verb group. We enter the curve verb group by clicking on the curve verb group button. The group opens and we find that there are 4 verbs available in the curve verb group. The project verb. This verb projects a 2D curve onto a surface or solid. We click on the project button. The prompt reads, select objects to project. We select the star and click on Done. The prompt reads, select projection target. If we click once, the object is selected. But we only want to project onto the surface. So we click again to select only the surface and then click on Done. The prompt changes to pick projection direction. We will simply click on Done to take the default. As we check the result in 3D view, we see that the projection crossed the surface twice, once in front and once in back. We'll delete the back projection. As we can see, the projection curve follows the contours of the target. Since this new projection is not on a single plane, if we try to extrude it using the default mode, it results in thin walls that cannot be 3D printed. Instead, we will extrude this new curve to a point. Projection is an easy way to help decorate an object and give it more character. Here is a sample showing that more than one curve was projected onto a surface.
The isect verb. To demonstrate the isect verb, we have created 2 freeform lines at 90-degree angles. When we click on the isect verb button, the prompt reads, select objects to intersect. Selecting both curves and clicking on Done creates a new line that is calculated by the intersection in space of the original lines. We can verify this by extruding both lines to see how and where their profiles intersect.
The silhouette verb. Some verbs in Moment of Inspiration exist to help a subset of users. The silhouette verb isn't all that helpful for those of us designing for 3D printing. But those who use moment of inspiration to create files for routers often need to export their designs as Adobe Illustrator files. Having the silhouette method, which can generate outlines to be exported immediately after being generated, can be very helpful. By the way, when exporting to AI files, custom styles can be used to create Illustrator layers, and layers can help define which tools might be used in the router. It's a bit beyond this course, but definitely makes moment of inspiration useful for much more than 3D printing.
The ISO verb. The ISO verb creates an isocurve exactly following the contour of a surface. An isocurve can extend in either the U or V direction. To demonstrate the ISO verb, we will use loft with profiles that create an object representing a mountain. Next, we will click on the ISO verb button. The prompt says, Select Face. We will select the top surface. We can create isocurves in both U and V directions at the same time. But in this case, we will create isocurves in each direction separately. Click on the front view. We first will create isocurves in the V direction. Each isocurve will be created at a different vertical height on the mountain. Click on Done when finished. We just created a map of lines representing every horizontal point and a selected vertical height on our mountain. Switch to the top view to see the contours from above. This is known as a contour map. These isocurves in the V direction are enough to roughly recreate the mountain using loft. But adding isocurves in the U direction will add additional information for recreating our original mountain. Now we will create the isocurves in the U direction. Click on Done when finished creating lines. We've created something called a Coons patch. Now we will see the true value of creating these extra isocurve lines. Delete the lofted mountain, leaving only the isocurves. Select all the new isocurves and click on the Network button. Our isocurves allow us to recreate the mountain, even if the original shape is lost. It's a bit of work, but having this capability can be invaluable.
This completes our introduction to all the verb and verb groups located on the Construct tab of Palette 3. You will use some of these verbs in just about every design. Others may only be needed in rare circumstances, but all are value assets enhancing your ability to get a lot of enjoyment and usefulness out of moment of inspiration. Now we will explore the verbs and verb groups located on the Transform tab.